个环节嘅。
Morning, members. I now call to order the 18th session of the Special Finance Committee. The purpose of the Special Finance Committee is to examine the draft estimates 2013-14 to make sure that the funding will not exceed what is required for policy implementation. Those members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I'd like to remind members that all questions must have to do with the draft estimates. If members would like to cite any replies, please quote the reply serial number, for example, FHB FE001. To facilitate the proceeding of the meeting, the Secretariat has put together a computer interface, and members can take advantage of the desktop computer to search all the replies, and all the replies are under discussion will be projected on the screen in the meeting room. If members don't have sufficient time, you're welcome to put your question in writing. The forms are tabled before members. Please have them sent in to the Secretariat before the meeting, and the administration will give us a reply before the 24th of April at the third budget meeting. I'd like to welcome the FHB, the Secretary for Food and Health, to answer our questions. We'll deal with food safety and environmental hygiene first. Secretary, please. Chairman, the Food and Health Bureau is in the 2013-14 estimates, about 5.8 billion has been earmarked for recurring expenditure, representing an increase of 230 million or 4.2% over the previous year, accounting for 2% of recurring government expenditure. New resources available in the next financial year used to provide additional funding of $57 million to FEHD to cope with the rise in outsourcing contract prices, an additional 5.8 million to provide Secretariat support and legal advisory service for the Fishermen Claims Appeal Board for handling claims related to trawl ban and marine works projects, an additional 4.8 million to administer the assistance scheme for improving fire safety in fixed pitch hawker areas, an additional 4 million for patrol and regulatory work in enforcing the trawl ban. On efforts to safeguard food safety, the key components include food surveillance, proper handling of food incidents, updating of food standards, effective enforcement of food safety laws, and appropriate import control on food and food animals. We will continue to take forward the relevant work to ensure that food for sale in Hong Kong is fit for human consumption. The regulation which governs pesticide residues in food will come into operation in August 2014. The CFS will conduct briefings for food traders and local farmers and develop practical guidelines. Plans are also underway to strengthen the regulation of GM food. Based on the practice of Codex and WHO, we have proposed to introduce a mandatory pre-market safety assessment scheme, which has gained the support of the panel. The administration will launch a public consultation in the second half of this year. The government has been promoting the merits of breastfeeding to encourage its adoption. Nevertheless, we've also noted that many local parents have chosen not to breastfeed. We will, having regard to the Codex standards and international practices in legislation with the aim of regulating the nutritional composition of powdered formula products intended for consumption by infants under six months. Early this year, we have completed a public consultation, which are generally welcomed by the trading community at large. We have obtained the support of the panel and plan to introduce the relevant legislation into the Legislative Council in 2013. As I mentioned just now, for parents who have not opted for breastfeeding, powdered formula is the only and very essential foodstuff for the infants and young children. An adequate supply of powdered formula is of utmost importance. Consequently, when the government noted a serious shortage of powdered formula, amendments were made to the Import and Export General Regulation. Since the regulation came into effect on March 1st, parallel trading activities related to powdered formula has dropped substantially, while the supply of powdered formula at retail level has become sufficient and stable. We will continue to maintain close liaisons with major suppliers of powdered formula and retail representatives and urge them to step up efforts in improving the supply chain management to ensure adequate and stable supply. After LegCo has endorsed the amendment, we will review this policy in a year's time. And we will ascertain whether we will be able to maintain a stable supply of powdered formula in Hong Kong. To further improve and enhance fire resistance capability and electrical installations of hawker stores, the FHD will launch a 5-year assistance scheme for about 4,300 hawkers in the 43 fixed-pitch hawker areas. The required funding of $230 million has been approved by FC. The scheme will be rolled out this summer. On regulation of private columbarium, we aim to introduce the relevant bill into the Council in the fourth quarter of this year, as scheduled. In the interest of encouraging wider use of environmentally friendly and sustainable means of handling cremains, the administration will continue with its efforts to foster the necessary mindset change. To promote the district-based columbarium development scheme, the government has identified 24 potential sites across 18 districts for columbarium development. And we will get on with the consultation work with the district councils to help restore the fisheries resources and promote the sustainable development of fisheries industry. The legislation which bans trawling activities has taken effect. To facilitate the granting of gratia allowances, a committee comprising non-official members is handling appeals filed by applicants. Apart from the trawl ban, we are also processing applications for registration of local fishing vessels so as to control the fishing effort in Hong Kong waters. In his policy address, the Chief Executive has proposed the setting up of a $500 million Sustainable Fisheries Development Fund. We are consulting the trade. We are planning to seek funding approval in the fourth quarter of this year. On supporting agricultural development, the government has been making use of Agricultural Development Fund under the VMO to facilitate further development of local agriculture by developing modern and environmentally friendly farming technologies with emphasis on preservation of natural resources and agricultural ecology and yielding quality and high-value agricultural produce for consumption. The administration has earlier announced the arrangement for alignment of fees and charges for municipal facilities and services provided by the FEHD. The lower rate will prevail. As a next step, the FEHD will conduct a comprehensive review of the charging policy and rates of these facilities and services. In the course of the review, we will have due regard to the public affordability as well as the fiscal discipline of the government over the years, with a view to striking a reasonable balance. The FHD is committed to enhancing the operating environment of the public markets under its management. These include carrying out enhancement projects to upgrade facilities. We also hold promotional activities from time to time to attract patronage. At the request of the panel, the administration is examining the policy, positioning, and functions of public markets, including putting forward proposals regarding improvement of the operating environment of the public markets and related matters. A preliminary report will be submitted in the second half of this year. The AFCD, in conjunction with the police and SPCA, provides a platform for relevant professional departments and AWOs to enhance mutual support with a view to ensuring effective investigation of animal cruelty cases. We will be devoting about $8 million to public education and publicity for promoting animal welfare. The AFCD will set aside $1 million for AWOs to organize activities relating to animal welfare. Last year, we conducted a public consultation on the proposals to better regulate pet trading, including tightening regulation of persons who breed and sell dogs and raising the penalties under the legislation. We aim to introduce the amendment regulation within this year. Avian flu. The government has been implementing a series of AI prevention and control measures at the poultry farm, wholesale and retail import levels. Over the past 3 years, 18,000 dead wild birds and 15,000 specimens from poultry and environment were tested. No H7AI virus had been detected. In response to the human infection cases of H7N9 AI in the eastern part of the mainland authorities have immediately stepped up surveillance of live poultry and poultry products bound for Hong Kong. Since yesterday, Hong Kong has also started to conduct rapid tests against H7AI on imported live poultry. Upon arrival at Mancam Tow, all the tests proved to be negative. The government will continue to liaise closely with the mainland authorities to keep the public informed of developments of the H7AI front. We will stay alert to monitor the developments closely. Chairman, my colleagues and I are happy to answer questions from members. Thank you. Thanks very much, Secretary. We're here till 10:40 for this session. We have 10 members who have pressed the button to speak. 5 minutes each, please. Our time is very tight today, so I'll be very strict with the time. So please do me a favor, do not go beyond the 5-minute rule. 王國興、單仲偕、Kelly Chen, Raymond Chen, Claudia Mong, Leung Sing Amli Lau, Priscilla Leung, Chung Kwok Chu, Stephen Ho, and Chen Yunhan. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng. Chairman, thank you. I've got 2 questions. The first question is reply 114 in relation to live cattle supply and the prices. Now, this is something of concern to the whole of Hong Kong. The beef traders are experiencing tremendous difficulties now. By the end of last year, together with the beef retail and wholesale operators, I've met the Secretary. The Secretary undertook that he would conduct an independent investigation into the cartel situation. A few months on, what progress have you achieved in relation to the investigation? The retailers are experiencing considerable difficulties. The beef prices keep going up and up, and the members of the public in Hong Kong are having difficulties in affording the price of beef. What measures do you have up your sleeve, Secretary? The second question is of concern to the whole of Hong Kong, and that is H7N9 virus. The Secretary and the Chief Executive did visit the facilities, but in eastern part of China, the cases do have an incubation period. And my question for the Secretary is, are you going to mount a clean-up operation in Hong Kong to nip the problem at the bud, to make sure that the people of Hong Kong would be more vigilant about H7N9 and to guard against the worst possible eventualities? Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Regarding the beef price, we have commissioned a consultant to conduct a study, and the findings will become available within this year. We will be bringing the panel up to date in May in this regard. Second, H7N9. We're not merely looking at H7N9 within this month. Unlike what Mr. Wong said, we may not call this a clean-up campaign, but in relation to the whole of Hong Kong, we will be concerned about environmental hygiene and environmental conservation, and there will be different organizations and different levels that will be helping with the cleaning operation. Now, at different levels, we have asked for the public places, shopping malls, schools, housing estates, and various other places, markets included, to be cleaned, to be visited by government officials in the cleanup operations. Mr. Wong, on the first question, Chairman, the administration will be submitting a report to the panel in May about beef prices. I hope that the administration will not just tell us about the findings of the consultancy report, but also they should come up with some measures to tackle the escalating beef prices and also the difficulties suffered by the operators. 151, FHB 151 is my next question. It's about the recovery of the hawker's license, the repossession of hawker's license. Now, in fact, there are so many fixed pitch hawkers who have assistants accompanying in their operation. They are actual operators themselves. Now, the licensee, if the licensee has surrendered the license, and they would find themselves out of a job. So will the government accord priority to those who are in possession of assistance license when a hawker license is repossessed? And will you also review the hawker license as a whole? Director? Chairman? Yes, hawker's assistance. In fact, we did have a fair amount of discussion at the Finance Committee last time. I must reiterate that now for the surrender of the hawker license is restricted to the hawker licensees themselves, not the assistants. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. By paragraph 26 of the reply about the influenza, I don't know much about the influenza myself. Pardon my ignorance. You said that over the past 3 years, no H7AI virus had been detected. Now we are talking about the migratory birds and other birds having the viruses reassorted. Now, when you conduct the tests, will you be able to tell whether the birds suffer from all kinds of the bird flu viruses?
And then is it that all the live poultry will come to Hong Kong via the man-counter control point? Will you also carry out rapid tests at other control points or border crossing points? You know, a few years ago, many people went to Shenzhen to buy food items like poultry, ducks, geese. Now, I understand that today not many people do that because of the appreciation of the renminbi. But then there are maybe elderly persons who like to buy poultry from the mainland. Yes, Chairman, thank you. With regard to the rapid tests for the avian flu virus, now I want to first of all say that I'm not an expert in this area, but I'll try to give members some information. At the moment, we have H1N1 and H3N2, which are the more common strains. And so we do have tests for H1N1, and this is in fact a seasonal flu. And for avian flu, we are mainly talking about H5, H7, and H9. And for the time being, now we've seen infection among human beings only in relation to H5N1. So in other words, since the outbreak in 1997 in Hong Kong, we've only seen H5N1. And for H7N9, this is the first time that humans have been found to have been infected with H7N9. And then with regard to humans displaying flu symptoms, we can have tests for H1, H3, H5, and H7. And then concerning avian flu, as it has become a endemic, we do have vaccinations for against H5 for all live poultry to Hong Kong. But then for H7, we are still awaiting research. Vaccines. So we're now having H5 tests. For H7 tests, previously there were tests, but the results would not be available till a few days later. But now we have rapid tests against H7. And then I want to say that all live poultry come to Hong Kong via Mankanto. And then the law prohibits people from bringing in live poultry or live or uncooked meat into Hong Kong. What if people bring in a cooked chicken from the mainland? That's not banned by the law, but we do not encourage that. But what if the chicken is still raw and has not been cooked? That would be against the law. Now, so in the past, you also carried out tests against H7 on live poultry, but then there were no cases of human infection of H7. Now, because you said that there were no cases in the past 3 years. I'm talking about H7N9. This is the first time that we've seen human infection cases. But concerning H7, this virus has existed among wild birds and live poultry in the past 3 years. In Hong Kong as well as in Guangdong, we carried out H7 tests for live poultry brought into Hong Kong. Mr. Kenneth Chen, I want to follow up on 004, question 004, illegal columbaria. So last year we saw a Schedule 2 of unlawful columbaria, but then we still had 83 as at, or 80 odd as at March this year. Now, what's going to happen if some of these columbaria have to stop operation or cease operation? Maybe they may lose the court case. Maybe they won't be able to satisfy the requirements under the new legislation. And we are told here that these operators have to ensure that the interred remains are properly handled before the columbaria cease to operate. Yes, in principle, that should be the case. But then you know that some of these operators are rather irresponsible. Some have been exchanging correspondence with the administration dozens of times. Some are going to court continuously. And in fact, one operator has been found to be unlawfully or illegally occupying government land. So they are just being unscrupulous, hoping that they will be able to be licensed under the new legislation. But then, you know, some of the operators have only signed service agreements with the family members, and their obligations and responsibilities with regard to the cremains are rather limited. So I want to know, what if the illegal columbaria have to cease operation? How are you going to minimize the impact on those concerned? Yes, who can answer this question? Permanent Secretary. Yes, thank you, Chairman. In fact, departments concerned are taking enforcement action against columbaria operating illegally. But of course, there are procedures that the operators can go through. For example, they may lodge complaints, they may take certain legal action. But of course, it's incumbent upon the operator to ensure that the interred remains are properly handled. But now, Mr. Chen would like to know what's going to happen if the operators just cease operation without properly handling the interred remains. Now, I want to say that we are now drawing up a regulatory framework for private columbaria. We are now in the process of trying to know more about how these columbaria operate. But I don't think we can come up with a very accurate figure, because we don't know how many of them will cease operation, because I believe most of them would want to obtain licenses under the future licensing regime so that they can continue operation. Yes, I understand that the department will commission a consultancy study on the matter, and I would like to know when you will be able to give us relevant figures. Can you do so in the coming financial year? No, in fact, we are carrying out a business impact assessment. The results of the assessment will help us draw up the future licensing regime. We hope that with the benefit of the findings, we'll be able to draw up appropriate legislative provisions. But of course, we'll have to wait till the recommendations of the consultants are available. Do you have a timetable? Yes. We'll plan to table the legislation in LegCo by the end of the year. And of course, the consultancy study needs to be completed before that. Mr. Chen Chi-chun, yes, Chairman, I wish to follow up on the issue of illegal columbaria. This is a very serious problem. In fact, we've, in the complaints division, have received complaints. We have had case conferences, and at some case conferences, all the relevant parties, all the government departments told us about their difficulties. But it seemed that not too much could be done about the situation. And I would like to follow up on reply 002. And then in paragraph 12 of the speech, we are told that the legislation will come to LegCo in the fourth quarter of 2013. And then meanwhile, we are told that public education and publicity will be strengthened. Now, I believe there will be a lot of controversy over the proposed licensing regime. But then in the interim, before the legislation is available, these are columbaria are still operating. They are trying to attract more and more business in the interim. And it is said that public education and publicity will be stepped up, and the expenditure will be absorbed within existing resources. Now, I think you should try to educate consumers that they should not patronize these illegal columbaria, or they will have to bear the consequences, and they should be told the consequences. Yes, Chairman, in fact, we do have APIs advising the public to make use of sustainable and environmentally friendly means to dispose of the remains of their ancestors and family members. And if members are of the view that what we've done in terms of public education and publicity is not enough, we'll see how we can strengthen such efforts. And then I want to follow up on 020. On trap neuter return, and also euthanasia. Now, I understand that TNR has not been warmly received by district councils, and can I ask what has gone wrong? Why is it that the response to the idea has been so hostile? And then 2012, number of stray dogs caught versus euthanized, 80% were euthanized. And then stray cats, the situation was a bit better. 58.18% were euthanized. I mean stray cats caught. And then for stray dogs caught, most were euthanized. So can you explain why that was the case? And I don't think we have more cases of people willing to take up the stray cats. Yes, Director. Chairman, with regard to TNR, in the past 2 years, the AFCD tried very hard to persuade district councillors and area committee members to support TNR. In fact, in the first round of our lobbying exercise, I personally met the 18 district council chairmen. I also approached individual councillors and area committee members. But then when we started the consultation, there was strong objection. Most district councils supported trap and neuter, but not return. They felt that the animals should be returned to other districts, not their districts, or some suggested that the animals should be returned to an isolated island. And then concerning stray cats, they are relatively tamer, and they cause less threat to the district. Every year we receive about 1,700 cases of people being bitten by dogs, especially in the rural areas. The postmen, delivery workmen were bitten by dogs, and then we were able to detect about 1,000 such cases, and about 100 were convicted. But then return is a very important element of TNR. Now, according to the vets, dogs will not grow tamer even if they have been, even after they have been neutered. And we have to also be guard against rabies. And also we need to have volunteers to be responsible for taking care of these dogs, because or keeping an eye over these dogs, because if these dogs are hungry, if they don't have enough food, then they may become rather fierce. Yes, Miss Claudia Mo. Yes, Chairman, I want to ask a question in relation to the Secretary's speech about animal welfare concerning Cap 139B, breeding by private breeding. I think you know that animal welfare organizations do not agree that there should be two types of licenses. Yes, I understand that for the those for commercial I mean for commercial operations, people can understand. But then for private breeding, you are now proposing to turn something unlawful into something lawful, and as a result, there will be a very serious problem. And I think we should only have one type of license for the buying and selling of animals. And then I would like to know when the relevant proposal will come to LegCo, or when the amendment regulation will come to LegCo, which month in 2013. Chairman, in October last year, we put forward some proposals to the panel, and we also consulted animal welfare groups. And we also consulted those in the trade, and also those who breed and sell dogs. We understand that there are some who keep dogs at home, and they do not want to dispose of them or deal with the dogs using other ways and means, that they want to sell the dogs. And so if they are licensed, then we can carry out inspections, and we can take action if there is any irregularity. In fact, it's by no means easy to detect such cases. Now, in fact, in the consultation exercise, there are divided views. Some are of the view that there should be licenses for bigger operations, and then licenses for smaller operations. It's like we have restaurants of different sizes in Hong Kong. But of course, we'll look at whether the staff have been trained, whether there is enough space on the premises. Now, I am well versed with all these arguments, but then when AFCD met the AWOs, the department told them that under Article 105 of the Basic Law, the dogs which are bred and sold are the private property of the owners. And I think that position goes against the very humanistic approach depicted by Dr. Koh and the others. Ms. Mo, can I remind you not to speak in cocktail language? Can you please try to stick to one language? But I'm not the only one. But then a couple of days ago, I reminded colleagues that they should not speak in cocktail language. Thank you, Chairman. I have very little time left. I'll give you the time left. I want to say that when I gave a reminder to members, when I gave a reminder to members, you were not there. And, Cap 139 is very difficult for me to say that in Chinese, the argument. So please speak in Chinese. Now, I am using so much time to remind you of that, because it seems that you often speak in cocktail language. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I think, Chairman, we are talking about first of all, systematic breeding of dogs and then selling them. And so there may be operations of a bigger scale and operations of a smaller scale. And then with regard to the point about private property stipulated in the Basic Law, now, some pet owners, because of various reasons, may not be able to continue to keep the pets. Maybe they emigrate, or maybe they move into housing estates which do not allow the keeping of dogs. And I think the idea is that they should give the dogs to others instead of selling the dogs to others. But then there are some who are of the view that the dogs may be of a very precious breed, and maybe it takes about $7,000 to $8,000 a month to keep the dog. So I ask when the regulation will come to LegCo. There will be a meeting next week, and in fact the panel will, I believe, be able to discuss the various recommendations.
Now, there are lots of views around this issue. Some people may think that because I am short of cash, why can't I sell my dog? So these are all the various views involved. We have to have more detailed discussion before the next step. Mr. Ng Leung Sing, I would like to follow up on 151 for the reply number. In Para C, the administration's reply concerning hawkers is that they do not plan to relocate these hawkers, the illegal hawkers, to new markets. But if these hawkers got the support of the community and they can identify places for operation, then the administration is happy to provide the relevant support to these unlicensed hawkers. Now I have 3 questions for the administration. What do you mean by support from the community? Which organizations' support do you regard as decisive? Secondly, according to the regulation concerning environmental hygiene and health, will you give discretion to itinerant hawkers in different districts? Third question, you said you are happy to provide relevant support and assistance with the related departments. Which departments are you talking about? Mr. Leung. Chairman, we are actually considering the proposal from the district organizations. First of all, they have to identify a piece of land. Now, the lands department comes into place in this regard. Of course, they will have to consult the district council concerned, and they also have to get the support of local residents, because for these bazaars, they may create obstructions, they may create environmental hygiene problem. That's why it's important to consider the views of local residents and the district councillors. As for food safety requirements, should cooked food be sold, or frozen meat or fresh meat which are regulated under our regulations, then they will be subject to our monitoring. Where possible, we ask them to meet our requirements. They will have to have proper sewage system, supply of electricity and water. If they're selling frozen meat, they will have to have the freezers that should meet our requirements. Now I'm talking about the requirements of the FHD. As for other departments' requirements, they have to satisfy those of the lands department. If there should be any traffic impact, they have to look at what sort of impact they're going to create, and we're happy to help these organizations to meet the requirements. And the local organizations are closely related to the district councillors and local residents. That's why the consultation conducted by them is very important. For the FHD, you are the department handling the applications, is that correct? And at present, how many districts are involved in this sort of applications of holding bazaars? Yes, licensing is related to FHD, but if they are trying to get a piece of land, they have to get the approval of the lands department. In Tin Shui Wai, we have an application from that district, and lots of departments are already participating in this particular application. There have been some short-term bazaars, for example, the Tanglong Market, the Dragon Market. Ms. Emily Lau, Chairman, I'd like to ask questions about powdered formula supply, and it's also related to 001, reply 001. Now, the administration said is involved market behaviors, but of course, because we're talking about business, Now, usually the government does not intervene, but at present they're intervening. But it says now they are trying to intervene so that the consumers can get abreast of the latest supply situation. And they're going to, but they have no plan to set up permanent inquiry center. Still, does it mean that you are going to do something in the short run? We're just talking about several thousands of babies in Hong Kong, and from your reply last year, we saw 44.4 million kilograms of powdered formula imported to Hong Kong. That's the figure of last year. What about this year? Hong Kong is a free port. How come we cannot ensure there is sufficient powdered formula for our thousands babies? After we get this reassurance, it's fun for you to sell the surplus to mainlanders or people from other countries. This is just a trivial matter. How come we have spent so much time here? And next week, we're going to discuss it further. And people are asking you to set down the sunset clause and so on and so forth. Now, let me repeat, this is a trivial matter. And how come it takes so much time for us to deal with it? How come we cannot have a better supply chain to ensure our local babies have the milk they need? And then the businessmen can make money if they want to. I have to clarify something. For babies born in Hong Kong that amount to over 40,000, how much powdered formula is needed? Well, that's another matter. Let me just tell you, there have been 40,000 babies born locally. And I agree this matter is solely related to market behavior. So the government tries not to intervene at best. Now, at the beginning, we spent 3 weeks to discuss with the suppliers and the retailers. So the supply chain will be perfected. But after the 3-week discussion, they only be able to ensure there is sufficient supply. Whereas on the retail front, supply was still tight. With repeated urging to these suppliers, there were still complaints about insufficient supply. And the shortage of products spread from Northern District to Hong Kong Island. It's only under these circumstances that we were compelled to intervene. And we do not have an inquiry center on supply of formula products. It's just that we have a hotline of 1823 all along to help those who cannot get connected to the suppliers, so that these parents can actually place order on such products. How much have you spent to subsidize these people to make money? And is it something that the administration should do? I'll give you a reply later. You don't have much time. Now, these people are making profit. How come we are subsidizing these people who are making profits? At present, we are not using extra resources to do this. We're no longer doing that. And we maintain the hotline 1823 with existing manpower only. I completely agree with you that government subsidies should not be given to these people. That's why after the Import-Export Amendment regulation, how come you do not go to them and ask them back for the money? I think this is what we should be doing. Secretary, how much resources have been put into this inquiry center or this hotline? Do you have such figure? Well, we'll have to do some calculation. I can give you the written reply later. Next, Dr. Priscilla Leung. Chairman, I'd like to give some time to the Secretary to answer the question because I'd like to follow up on formula product supply. We should appreciate parents care about their children. It's the same around the globe. Now, previously, we just look at local demand, but now we have demand coming from other places like the mainland. That's why we have to resort to amendment of legislation to manage the situation. There are many brand names. That's the example for designer bags. But mainlanders only know 1 or 2 brands. And so the example can be applied to powdered formula. That's why they snatch up a formula of certain brands only. Can you ensure other brands of formula can reach out to these consumers too? I understand that for the Consumer Council, they publish data concerning this area from time to time. Can they also publish data about other brands so that people will not be frantically seek after certain brands of formula only? If you let people know there are other quality formula, people will not simply snatch up several brands only. And in that, we can divert the demand to other brands. So just disseminate this information to all consumers from other countries, not just to local consumers. And may I suggest to you to give half a year to consider this proposal to divert demand before you amend the legislation further. So, Secretary, what's your reply? Thank you. And thank you for giving me this chance to repeat that I agree with Ms. Lau and Ms. Leung. Yes, this is a market behavior, a commercial activity. Exactly because of this, we gave sufficient time to the businessmen to handle the situation. Still, they fail in this regard. Our obligation is to ensure local parents can get hold of the powdered formula. And even without urging, the problem has not been alleviated. That's why we have to intervene to do something to ensure sufficient supplies given to the local parents and their babies. Now, you mentioned this may be a global phenomenon. At the beginning, the suppliers said that they would ensure sufficient supply, but now they dare not say such thing, because even for some exporter of formula products, there is a shortage of supply. So I doubt whether the suppliers will reiterate what they said before. For the amendment, we tabled the amendment on the 17th, but I can assure you will consider all constructive proposals iterated. I think you are right in looking at local supply. You can express your views, but if you don't ask questions, we won't give time to the Secretary to give a reply. All right. Secretary, what I said was for you to divert the demand. If you do that, say half a year later, then the suppliers will be able to come up with some ways to boost the supply. And as you said, this is a business activity, then other bureaus may be involved apart from your own bureau. So what else do you propose to do? In fact, the amendment of legislation is an interdepartmental or bureau exercise. But if the business sector cannot manage the situation, I have my obligation. Time's up for you, Secretary. Mr. Chen Kwok-chu, 006 is reply 006 is what I'd like to follow up. I want to know more about the fixed pitch hawker areas, whether you will review the licensing policy and give further license. But you said there is no plan at present. But do you have any plans for the future? And next, question 163 is a question by Mr. Wong Yuk-man. His question is about the clearance of homeless people. And you said the question is about the pest control. Can you tell how this will be dealt with, because the homeless people are not pests themselves? And next question is about para 3 of your opening speech. You said that $57 million will be spent on outsourcing contract prices. What sort of new contract activities are we talking about, and how much will be spent on that, and how much will be spent on the existing contract activities? The next question is about reply 14 is about the para 14 is about identifying 24 sites across the territory for columbarium development. Can you tell us which areas will see the establishment of columbarium exactly? Next question is about agricultural development, that you will give assistance to the sector. So does it mean you're going to give assistance to existing farmers, or does it mean that you will identify more farmland and attract more people to enter the farming sector? First question is about existing policy of hawkers. At present, we do not have any plans to issue license, but we're also conducting a large-scale exercise to enhance business environment for hawkers. After we have completed that, we'll consider your suggestion further. But at present, we do not have such plans.
Agricultural Policy Secretary. Yes, Chairman. Your question is about the present and the future. We're not going to have any future increase. We do have a scarcity of land. If we can identify land for agricultural purposes, then certainly we will give it consideration. I'm sure the Director would subscribe to what I have to say. Mr. Leung. Chairman. A pest control team dealing with the homeless people. We're not treating the homeless people as pests. It's just that different teams have different names. For joint operations to do with environmental hygiene, normally it is the cleansing and pest control team colleagues that are dealing with it. Basically, they're dealing with cleansing. Now, if there are problems arising from rodents, then the pest control team will also deal with it. So I don't think there should be any misunderstanding there. There is anything untoward there. Now, as regards the scale, we haven't increased the scale. The increase in resources is because of the statutory minimum wage. Because of the statutory requirement, we require the contractors to comply with the SMW provisions. When the contract was awarded, there was no SMW, so we have to catch up with the SMW level. Columbarium. Yes, for the 24 sites in 18 districts, work is in hand. At electrical panel meetings, there were some discussions in Eastern District, Tuen Mun, and Northern District, Kwai Ching. We can get on with it more rapidly. The feasibility study is being conducted. Others will follow. Mr. Stephen Ho, 2 questions, if I may. I look forward to a more detailed reply. 044 and 045, the oyster raft. In Hong Kong, the oyster farmers very much hope that the administration will have a new policy in relation to oyster farming, and that we have 5,000, 6,000 oil rafts. The only support the government gives them is to have one official promoting sound farming practices. Now we have 26 agricultural mariculture zones, and I'm just wondering what sort of manpower level is there in relation to the oyster farming. 045 is the next question about agricultural land rehabilitation scheme. The waiting time is 3.5 years, longer than what it will take you to get rental housing. In 2010, those successful applicants, the numbers was 2.9 hectares. 2012, 9 cases, 3.4 hectares of land involved. Now, the agricultural land rehabilitation scheme needs coordination. We fully appreciate that there is a scarcity of agricultural land in Hong Kong. So will the administration do more to coordinate? And previously we suggested to the administration that some land can be carved out for agricultural farming estate to be set up. Director, Chairman, of oyster farming compared with aquaculture, I mean, it is just as important. Why is it that we have one officer dealing with that? We do have a laboratory and a whole team, but there is an officer who is responsible for liaising with the oyster farmers. The major problem with oyster farming is confidence that people are very concerned about food safety. The oyster that we consume come from Canada and Australia. The locally produced oyster has been suffering from some setback in the sale. In terms of technology, before the oysters find their way to the market, we hope that we can help the oyster farmers to enhance the hygiene and inspire confidence in the consumer in Hong Kong. This is something that we were looking into. Agricultural land rehabilitation. Now, in fact, we liaised with the Policy Bureau about this particular policy and the difficulties and challenges that we are facing. As we all know, a lot of land in Hong Kong is privately owned. The land suitable for farming lies in Sai Kung, Lantau, Northeast NT, and so on. Now, we do need to have the consent of the private owners before we can use the land for farming purposes. And for land to be farmed on, we do need to have all the conditions like clean water sources, and the land is not contaminated by pollutants like the land used to be used as garages, and there may be a lot of motor oil seeping into it. There will be problems. And third, many people would like to try out organic farming, and they would like to be to become city farmers. And there are many real estate agents who can identify land for this purpose. Now, we would like to help those who are affected by redevelopment, they have to move out of their land. We would like to give them assistance to start with. And also there are others who don't have that much of a choice. They're illiterate and they spend all their life tilling the land. I mean, they would like to get involved in that. Now, we would try to identify sources of land, and we get assistance from HAD, the Lands Department and the Planning Department for that matter. We are making concerted efforts to identify land. Well, 3.5 years, can this be shortened somehow? Well, Chairman, there is a limited supply of land, and certain farmers are very quite choosy about the size of land and the location of the land involved. Ms. Chen Yunhan. Two questions, Chairman. The first one is similar to Mr. Ho's. Now, city dwellers would like to be involved in the agricultural rehabilitation scheme, and it would take a long time for the application to be processed. That the director seems to be saying that the problem doesn't lie with his department. Now, if we follow the director's logic, it would take an awful long time for applications to be processed. Now, there are many people who would like to join the scheme, and many farmers indeed would like to be part of the scheme. What is the problem? Is it a problem of resources or what? Second, the hawkers. The secretary said a moment ago that there are 43 districts in which they will try to optimize the hawker stores. Now, there are Yumen Square, for instance, there is a massive market, a Mutwa Street market, and they are waiting for the licenses to be reprocessed, and the assistants would like to get the licenses. Why 43? Why did you arrive at the figure of 43 sites? Secretary or Director Wong? Thanks very much, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Chen. If I may pursue my line of reasoning, agricultural land, a lot of it is owned in private hands. Now, many farms that we see these days came about through the assistance of the intermediaries. Now, people may not be able to find suitable sites for this purpose. Now, maybe someone would like to engage in organic farming. Director, you haven't done certain things. In fact, people would like to pursue this idea. Can you be more specific, Ms. Chen? What I'm talking about are the farmers. I've been to Long Valley. So where did they get stuck? Well, they are not prepared to play the intermediary role. And there is a market demand. Someone would like to rent the land, but there is no intermediary. I'm not talking about Long Valley. I just have been there. Director. Well, land is one of the factors of production. You need human resources. You need capital. There is a supply of land, but you have to pay for the rental. We cannot force the landowners to offer the land for the rental that is preferred by the tenant. What about my second question about the 43 sites? Yes, Mr. Leung, FEHD. Yes, the 43 hawkers sites, they are on-street hawker stores. Yumen Square is off-street stores. There is a market bazaar there. There is a plot of land for them to operate in. In Guntong, the URA is playing the leading role there. So it is somewhat different from the objective that we have in mind. We're dealing with the on-street hawker stores there. We hope that we will be able to enhance the fire resistance measures, and also to do something about the stores that are getting in the way of the fire exits, and we'd like to relocate them. Ms. Chen, Director, I think you have a point there. Mudwa Street, when relocation takes place, I'm sure that URA will be liaising with you. Now, you mentioned an improvement of fire safety. Now, of course, they would also like to achieve that. Now, why is it that you only have 43 sites? The URA has got no idea what to do with this particular market, and you're not doing anything, but the whole thing is stuck there. Director, Yumen Square Chairman, they have made a representation with LegCo. Now, there is a stronger demand for fire safety, and there is a more stringent law enforcement. Ms. Chen, your time is up. Mr. Ip Kok Him. Chairman, 2 questions. The first one is about hawkers. I'd like to find out more about it. Paragraph 11 of his speech, the Secretary mentioned the 43 sites, and these are fixed pitch hawkers. I attended a district council meeting yesterday. There are some itinerant hawker stores in the vicinity. Have you also considered the fire safety problems? Now, there are some itinerant stores, 5 by 5 meters. And I find it hard to believe it. It seems to me that FHD is unable to deal with these massive stores. They may be causing obstruction, and they may be causing problems. Why is it that you cannot institute any prosecution? Is there anything that you will do to enhance the management? And they're causing nuisance to the residents. My second question is paragraph 27 of your speech, Secretary, in relation to H7 and 9. Now, the whole of Hong Kong is highly concerned about it. In light of the SARS epidemic experience, I think we have to strengthen our own abilities ourselves. In particular, we have to improve our environmental hygiene and personal hygiene and so on. Now, are you going to mount any team clean operation in the light of the previous experience? Are you going to mount any cleaning competition in 18 districts? Are you going to identify all the black spots and get rid of them in order that we will set greater store by environmental hygiene? Secretary, will you take this question first? Yes, I'll do it, Chairman. Mr. Ip, we are concerned about environmental hygiene because this will be important in resisting the onslaught of any viruses. We may not have the campaigns that, like you mentioned, but together with the voluntary organizations and other departments, we will be organizing various activities. Some will be targeted at environmental hygiene and environmental conservation. Members are probably aware that in the community, in housing estates, markets, schools, shopping malls, and so on, we have reminded them of the importance of hygiene. We have government officials being involved in this regard. Director, itinerant hawkers causing obstruction, we are aware of the problem. Mr. Ip talked about the stores that are really massive. We do have the hawker control team, the HCT, that will be making their rounds, and we would institute prosecution. We are aware of the problems in the Northern District. In response to complaints, we have stepped up our action. For fixed hawkers, they are on the street in a row, and the fire safety for itinerant hawkers would be less than that for the fixed pitch hawkers, and they will fold up. They will take away the paraphernalia in the middle of the night, So our focus of attention is on the fixed pitch hawkers. But in relation to obstruction caused by the itinerant hawkers, we will step up the enforcement action. And some hawkers are not particularly compliant, so we will step up our enforcement action. Mr. Ip. Director, well, I depicted the situation to you. You're aware of some of the stores being 5 by 5 meters. And they're really massive, and they're itinerant hawkers. How would you say that they will not be causing problems to fire safety and obstruction? Or are you saying that there is nothing in the law that regulates the sizes of the stores? I think as we are concerned about the fire safety and obstruction caused by the fixed pitch hawkers, why don't you do the same thing with itinerant hawkers? Director, 10 seconds. Well, we'll step up enforcement action. There are different views in the community regarding hawkers. Mr. Tankapio, Chairman. 151 is my question, also about hawkers. In different districts, there are so many unlicensed hawkers. Will there be any policy formulated to set up hawker areas, in particular cookfood hawkers? Well, this is by no means a new policy in Cheungchao. The FHD has done similar things, and Mui Wo for that matter. In Dongchong, the density is pretty low, and there is no local economy to speak of. Now, in the reply, it says that if the proponent gets the support of the community, and if we can identify suitable sites, then it will be a possibility. But from what I heard, we do need to have a proponent. We do need to have someone who can manage the hawkers. Are you effectively saying that you will not be doing anything unless we adopt the Yunlong Tinshui-Wai's model, like you must have an NGO like Tonghua Group that will be taking the lead, and you're not going to organize it in a way like the New Year flower bazaar, flower fair, and so on, and you're not going to do it like that? The Tinshui-Wai model is led by the HAB. I'm not sure whether I should be talking to you or the HAB, Dr. Ko. Chairman, thanks very much, Mr. Tang. The Tinshui-Wai bazaar is a new and novel idea. We have looked at various districts, and different districts do have their unique requirements, and we attach a great deal of importance to this district and also the local district administration.
And so we hope that we'll be able to get the support of the district councils for our schemes. Concerning getting an organization to be responsible for the management work, this is one option we are actively exploring, because if there is one organization responsible for the management work, this organization will be able to enjoy more flexibility in its work, and the organization can also take into account fully the characteristics of the district. And so I think this is one option which can be pursued further. Mr. Tang. So I want to ask a further question with regard to new towns. If district councils support the idea of an open door bazaar, then will you respect the consensus? Now, say for example, I'm of the view that there should be an open door night market or bazaar in Tung Chung, and there's no objection. So can that be regarded as eligible under the signature project scheme? And even if there's a consensus, who will be doing the work? We'll be liaising with the HAB, and we'll try to see who should be responsible for the management work. So we will be liaising with the HAB and also district councils concerning how to take forward the proposal. And say if the HAB plays the leading role, then is it that you will give the Bureau your support, and then you will find an organization to do the management work? I believe the HAB will be playing a bigger role, but our Bureau will give the Bureau a lot of support. Mr. Alan Leung. Yes, Chairman, may I refer to the Secretary's speech? He talked about the supply of formula products. No, I think the Secretary knows very well that the Civic Party basically supports the import and export amendment regulation. I think it's important to let the public know very clearly what is allowed and what is not allowed under the law. I have not had a chance to talk to the Secretary on this matter since the last meeting of the subcommittee. Now, I want to now give some comments concerning the definition of powdered formula. I am of the view that definition is not based on scientific principles. You are looking at the product description and also the instructions for use to ascertain whether the products are for infants and young children under the age of 36 months, whether the food is in liquid form, and so on and so forth. Now, concerning product descriptions and instructions for use, you've also inserted in any other situations. Now, if you talk about product descriptions and instructions for use, no problem. But I don't know whether you've had a chance to study the amendment to be moved by Mr. Dennis Kwok. Now, concerning the different scenarios, for example, removal, damage, and so on, we can accept such a version. But then you insist that it should be any other situation. Now, of course, you are a political appointee. You have to bear political responsibility for your policy. But can I ask you whether you are willing to accept the Civic Party's suggestion? In other words, you should restrict yourself to product description and instructions for use and should not insert any other situation. Chairman, I wish to explain that in the initial version approved by the EXCO, there were the words which looked like, and many people are of the view that such a yardstick or criterion lacks objectivity, and that is why we've tried to put in objective criteria, for example, product description and instructions for use. But then we do understand that people may change the content of these labels. And as a result, we have to insert any relevant situation. I want to say that ultimately our officers in the front line have to exercise their judgment. So a balance needs to be struck somewhere, and I think the balance we've proposed is the right one. I understand the time is running out, Chairman, but I don't think the Secretary really understands what I'm getting at. Mr. Cole, perhaps you can ask the Permanent Secretary to brief you on the details, or you can listen to the recordings of our discussions. Now, we had quite a detailed discussion with Mr. Mo, and I understand that the regulation will come to LegCo on the 17th. So there's still some time for you to take some action. We're willing to give you assistance if you need that assistance, but ultimately you have to bear political responsibility for your decision. Mr. Tong Lee Chair. Yes, thank you. Chairman, I want to ask about 037, a question raised by Mr. Chong Shi on agricultural land rehabilitation. We are told that from 2008 to 2012, a total of 14 hectares of agricultural land was rehabilitated. I want to know the total area of farmland we have in Hong Kong, and also is it that all the farmland in Hong Kong is owned privately? Can you give us a percentage? And then, have you graded the agricultural lots in Hong Kong? For example, are there high quality lots? Are there lots which are not suitable for rehabilitation? The director said that some of the sites have been used for vehicle repair, for example, and so they would no longer be suitable for agriculture. So I want to know whether you do regularly grade the agricultural lots we have in Hong Kong. Yes, Mr. Wong. Chairman, thank you. In Hong Kong, or rather the different parts of Hong Kong are covered by OEZPs. And in the OEZPs, we see the different land uses, GIC, industrial or agricultural. But then concerning the rural areas, the villages, the country parks, in fact, there are lots of privately owned agricultural lots in these areas. In fact, we have recently had a rather comprehensive review, and we've learned that in fact there are quite a large number of agricultural lots in Hong Kong. But then the leases are such that they can be used for agriculture as well as for other purposes like warehouses, so long as there are no commercial or residential developments on them. And so we don't have an accurate figure as to the total size of agricultural land. And then there are also agricultural activities on certain green belt sites and conservation sites. So we will try to find out more about the situation. Chairman, I wish to clarify. I just want to know the total size of agricultural land planned for such use. As I have said just now, we have agriculture uses on the OEZPs. I mean planned uses. But even if the planned land use zoning is agriculture, it doesn't mean that this site is at the moment used for agriculture, because the land or the owner or the landlord can use the site for uses permitted under an agricultural lease. Now, under the agricultural land rehabilitation scheme, we want people to use the land for agriculture, but then the owners may not agree to that. And then concerning arable land, at the moment they may be just lying waste, and we do not grade them, but then I believe most of them are still suitable. Most of these sites are suitable for agriculture, for example, the growing of vegetables. Mr. Tony Chair. Now, as there is planning, then of course we should know the total area, and the director said that most of the sites were privately owned. So what information do you want? The total area of agricultural land zoned for agricultural use in Hong Kong. And I want to know how much of the land is privately owned, how much is government owned, because we're only talking about 14 hectares over a 5-year period. And also, do you provide support for those willing to join the agricultural land rehabilitation scheme, because some farmers may not be literate. So do you give you give these people, for example, technical support? All right, Director, I think you have to provide all the information in writing. Now we have one more member who has indicated that she would like to ask questions, and then we've got another member who has just come in, and we've only got 7 minutes left. I really hope that members can come early so that I know exactly how many members would like to ask questions. All right, we have 3 members who would like to ask questions. So 5 minutes, and please try not to use up your 5 minutes so that we'll be able to have a break. Yes, Ms. Alice Mack. Thank you. May I refer to para 21 and 22 of the Secretary's speech? He is talking about public markets, in particular improvements to these markets. Then may I refer to question 151 raised by Mr. Tang Ka Piu, and paragraph B tells us that there are no plans to provide new markets. But then we've kept emphasizing the demand for market facilities on the part of the residents. Now, in fact, since 2009, the FEHD has not been providing markets in the new developments, and as a result, markets are only provided by the link REIT. In other words, the public markets are not provided, and people are complaining about very high prices, and but then in 2009 the government was strongly criticized by the Director of Audit with regard to its management of public markets, and as a result the government has decided not to provide new public markets. But then, as you know, prices have gone up very substantially since 2009. Everything is so expensive. So will you consider providing public markets, new public markets in new towns? Secretary, this is a difficult issue, Chairman. When we provide and operate a public market, we need to take into account whether there is this demand among the residents, and we have to make sure that the market will be viable. In fact, our existing public markets are experiencing operational difficulties. In fact, we're having a comprehensive review of our existing markets, and I have personally visited the markets, and we will in due course engage a consultant to advise us on which markets can continue to operate and what improvements are needed for those markets. And then in some districts or areas, there are housing department markets and also markets operated by or provided by the link REIT. we have been to some new towns, and in fact we can see that the different estates are quite far apart. For example, in Tung Chung and Tin Shui Wai, even if you provide a public market at a certain location in Tin Shui Wai, for example, it won't be able to satisfy the demands of all the residents in Tin Shui Wai. And also there may be some smaller markets in the individual estates, and so if we provide a big market, then it would face keen competition from the smaller markets in the individual estates. Ms. Mack, yes, I agree that viability is one factor to consider in deciding whether to provide a new public market. But then you have to carry out studies to ascertain whether such markets will be viable. Concerning Yong Ok Street Market, Peiho Street Market, these are extremely successful markets. In fact, we've done price surveys, and these foodstuff in these markets is cheap. And there is this North Kwai Chung market in Kwai Fong. It is a very successful market. It is heavily patronized. It is very popular, and yet in the estates nearby, they all have their own markets. So I just want to say that if a market is successful, it can serve a very big catchment area, and such a market can attract people from the larger district, and as a result the business will be viable. Mr. Albert Ho. Yes, Chairman. Concerning animal welfare, trap, neuter and return. According to the director, there were difficulties in implementing TNR, and as a result, most of the animals or the stray animals had to be euthanized. Why is it that in overseas countries they do not have to resort to euthanasia? In fact, there are places where the animals can be returned to. In fact, in Hong Kong, I understand that there are lots of volunteers who are willing to really take care of these animals. So why is it that you cannot subsidize the operation of these establishments? No, there are lots of volunteers who are willing to help. We should respect life, and we should not euthanize huge quantities of healthy animals. Of course, you have to continue to do the trapping and neutering work. So you have in the upper stream, you have to ban illegal breeding ground and illegal importing, and then in the middle reaches, so to speak, you need to do trapping and neutering. And then what about in the lower course? Now, in fact, we have a few vet vacancies, and they do not want to euthanize animals. We have 3 centers receiving about 13,000 animals per year. Most of them are cats and dogs, and some were returned by their owners.
Why? Because it costs a lot for them to treat the animals, and some return the animals because they can no longer keep them at their homes, and sometimes because the cats and dogs gave birth to other puppies and kittens, and they can no longer take care of so many. So we have to see whether these animals will be adopted and whether we can cure their diseases. Now, coming to stray cats and dogs, over the past 3 years, over 5,400 cases of dog bites were reported. And yes, I got the figures all right when you gave the reply. So I have to say, in some cases, we do have to resort to putting animals down. For the animals with diseases, of course, you may have to put them down. I understand that, I appreciate that. But some animals were healthy, and you simply put them to sleep after they were returned for 2 weeks. For the private establishment, volunteers go to these places to take care of the animals, and it's hard for them to continue because they have difficulties in getting donation. These people, however, have a way to deal with the fierce dogs so that the dogs will not go about. If the government just give them a small amount of money, give them some space, certain laws, then they can do a better job, and we can show our respect to lives. I know these establishment owners, and when the land lease expires, we will give them a helping hand to identify further sites. Now, for the figures I gave you, we're not just talking about cats and dogs, but other animals like reptiles and birds. They have to be put down. The vet's assessment is that on the face of it, these animals are healthy. They may look healthy, but they have some hidden disease like skin diseases or cancer. The owners return these animals because they cannot afford the treatment cost. If that's the case, then we will not have such a high number of resignation of vets because they just can't bear putting down so many animals. Now, do some soul searching. Do you think you should put down so many animals? Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions. The first one is about FHB FE 125, which is about LLB Liquor Licensing Board. There is this complaint from residents that they are issuing liquor licenses indiscriminately. There are licensed establishments clustered in Yo Chim Mong and Wan Chai, and local residents saw lots of disturbances. How come there is no breakdown in manpower expenditure of LLB? This is my question. From your replies, there are 4 supporting staffers. What ranks, what titles are these people? And what's the estimated salaries for people working in LLB? In 2013-14, for the 4 staffers, they work in the secretariat of LLB. Most of them are EO. So how much do you pay them? I can give you a written reply after the meeting. My next question is about food safety. Reply number 098. From your reply, in 2012, 88 inspections were conducted. But then there were over 4,000 farms. But only 12 officers are responsible for such tasks. Now, simple calculation tells us that it takes you 52 years to inspect all these thousands of farms. These 4,000 odd farms. Is it a kind of loophole in maintaining food safety? I'll defer to the food safety officer. Thank you for the questions. For food safety, for the control of food safety, all the tasks are interrelated. The officers you mentioned, they are mainly tasked with inspections. But before the food is produced in Hong Kong, we do have to conduct some pre-production inspection. And we have different officers responsible for food safety on different levels. The 14 officers are responsible for conducting inspections outside Hong Kong, and we cannot simply rely on inspections to ensure food is safe. Ms. Wong, we are quite concerned. I understand that for the whole supply line, you maintain control over the food. But with your current speed, you cannot inspect all the farms in 52 years. When the food goes across the boundaries, they come in lorryfuls of food, but you cannot conduct inspections on all the lorries. Can you conduct some rapid tests so that you can detect contamination at source? Say, for example, identify the use of pesticide, the excessive use of pesticide at source. If you can't answer now, please supply a written reply. My next question is about reply 087. The question is about animal welfare. From reply C, you mentioned AWOs collaborating with AFCD. What AWOs are we talking about? What animal welfare organizations are we talking about? For organizations that haven't collaborated with you, does it mean that they cannot apply funding from you? In short, does it mean that you have identified certain groups to collaborate with, and for certain groups you do not like them, so you do not collaborate with them? Which organizations' applications have been turned down? And can you give us the reasons for turning down the application? First of all, there is no restriction as to who can apply funding, but there are some objective criteria we have to look at. First of all, whether they have sound financial support, for one thing, and secondly, what sort of activities they are carrying out, and what sort of details they can provide to us about the details. I can supply you with a list of organizations applying for funding after the meeting. And for some organizations withdrawing from the plans, from the scheme. Well, time's up. Time's up. You have already overrun for 30 seconds. Please don't ask any more questions. We'll rest for 5 minutes and start the next session.